Ukraine is about to receive 60 US-made M110A2 203mm self-propelled howitzers from Greece. These things don't fire shells. They launch small planets. Now, before anyone says, "But Wes, those are ancient." Yes, they are. They were old when disco was new, but that's the beauty of this story. Greece is sending Ukraine artillery so powerful, it's basically the vinyl record of long-range warfare. It's old, it's analog, but it still hits hard. Hey everyone, Wes O'Donnell here, military veteran, international relations degree, Russian speaker, and a guy who once spent a month living next to an artillery range and now twitches every time a car door slams. Today we're talking about something heavy. Literally. According to Greece's Ministry of Defense, Athens is now transferring 60 M110A2 howitzers, 150,000 artillery shells, and thousands of unguided aerial Zuni rockets, worth nearly 200 million euros to Ukraine, routed through Czechia. Greece has been holding out on us. And why Czechia? Well, because apparently, even in war, you still need a middleman. The deal is part of a broader EU framework that lets countries sell or donate old military stock while getting credit for helping Ukraine. So Greece clears out its old storage depots, gets a budget boost for modernization, and Ukraine gets to turn Soviet-era steel into molten slag. Everybody wins. But there is a catch. The howitzers are being sent as is. No refurbishments, no tune-ups, no fancy NATO paint job, just straight from Greek warehouses to Ukrainian train cars. So somewhere in Ukraine right now, a mechanic is staring at one of these beasts saying, "This manual's in English, it's from 1969, and it smells like moussaka." Now, you might be wondering, why would Greece, of all countries, give up 60 heavy guns from its own arsenal? Well, simple. As I mentioned, these howitzers are kinda old, and Greece wants to modernize. They were introduced in the late 1960s and have served faithfully ever since. But Greece has moved on to NATO standard 155mm artillery, easier logistics, smaller crews, faster firing rates, and fewer sore backs. The M110A2s, meanwhile, have become what Greece politely call non-operationally necessary. It means too old to fight, too expensive to keep, too heavy to scrap. But Ukraine, well, Ukraine still has the crews, the ammo loaders, and the grit to make use of them. So Greece said, you know what, let's send them where they'll be appreciated. And let's be honest, the Greeks know a thing or two about recycling old war stuff. Their coastline is basically one long open-air museum of ancient battles. Okay, so what is the M110A2 anyway? Well, think of it as the final over-caffeinated evolution of the Cold War's biggest mobile gun, a 203mm cannon bolted to a tracked chassis. No turret, no frills, no nonsense. It's like someone looked at a tank and said, lose the armor, keep the gun, and make it loud. It weighs 28 tons, it's powered by a Detroit diesel 8V71T, and can hit 55 kilometers per hour on the road, although road might be optimistic. Each projectile weighs around 90 kilograms, about the same as a fully grown adult who regrets joining an artillery unit. It fires 3 rounds every 2 minutes in rapid mode, or 1 per minute in sustained fire. That's slow, but when each shell could erase a football field, speed isn't the selling point. And here's the kicker, those shells can fly up to 30 kilometers with rocket assistance. And the upgraded American M650 rounds Greece is sending, they're accurate enough that if you're a Russian artillery crew hiding in a tree line, you might as well want to start digging deeper, Tovarish. So while it's old, it's still one of the loudest don't test me weapons you can park on a battlefield. Now at first glance, you might think Ukraine doesn't need this. They already have Soviet-made 2S7 Pions and 2S7M Malkas, which are also 203mm giants. But those are few in number, hard to maintain, and heavily targeted. So when Greece offers 60 Western-built equivalents, even used, Ukraine says, yes, we'll take the dinosaurs. Because here's the thing, in artillery duels, range is life, and if your gun can hit the other guy before he hits you, you win. But range means nothing without volume, and volume means logistics. Ukraine burns through artillery shells like a college kid burns through ramen, so an extra 150,000 rounds, including cluster munitions and rocket-assisted shells, is money in the bank for attritional warfare. And yes, cluster rounds. Greece isn't bound by the same treaty that bans them, so They're throwing in M404 ICM and M509A1 DPICM rounds. That's 180 bomblets per shell. So one M110A2 battery could cover an acre of Russian real estate in seconds. It's messy, it's brutal, but in this war, it's survival. Of course, not everyone in Greece was thrilled when the transfer came up in parliament. The opposition parties questioned moving artillery away from the Aegean Islands, especially with Turkey right next door. But the Greek Ministry of Defense assured everyone, relax, we're keeping enough guns for local problems. The rest go to Ukraine. And honestly, this is classic Greek politics, arguing passionately for 2 hours and then doing the right thing anyway. The M110A2 has fought in nearly every major war of the late 20th century. Vietnam, the Yom Kippur War, the Iran-Iraq War, Lebanon, and good old Gulf War I. It was America's long-range heavy hitter, an absolute bruiser of the Cold War. But by the early 90s, it was retired across NATO and replaced by the M109s and MLRS rockets. Now, everyone thought the M110A2's warfighting days were over. Museums started reserving display space, but then Russia invaded Ukraine, and suddenly the world's garage of retired weapons became a buffet for Kyiv's survival. So the M110A2 gets one more curtain call, the encore tour it never expected. It's like Pink Floyd getting back together, except this time Roger Waters kills some Russian soldiers. And here's what's underrated about this story. Logistics. It's always logistics. The M110A2 is a logistical workout. It needs a 13-person crew, separate loaders, support trucks, and maintenance vehicles. And that's not a bug, it's a feature. Ukraine has thousands of trained artillerymen and a surplus of Soviet logistics habits. These guys can keep anything running. If it's got a barrel, they'll make it fire. So integrating the M110s into Ukraine's artillery network isn't a stretch. It's a perfect marriage of old-school machinery and new-school data targeting. Because while the M110A2 is analog, Ukraine's battlefield software, stuff like GIS ARDA and Delta, makes it deadly accurate. Old gun, new brain. Why does this matter beyond the hardware? Because it shows the second wave of Western support, the inventory war. In 2022, countries sent their best gear, modern tanks, HIMARS, NASAMS, Patriots. By 2025, the cupboards are starting to look bare. And now it's about pulling useful stuff from the back room. That's where Greece, Spain, and even Japan come in, donating vehicles and shells and gear that's old, but functional. It's like the global version of a garage sale, but instead of garden tools, it's heavy artillery. And Ukraine's firepower keeps expanding horizontally, not vertically. More systems, more volume, more flexibility. And the Russians, well, they're still stuck producing 1960s tanks while pretending they're modernized. This deal also says something bigger about geopolitics. Greece didn't just sign off on this to be nice. It's a strategic investment in relationships. Athens aligns itself more closely with NATO's center of gravity in Prague, in Berlin, and in Washington. And it signals to Brussels, we're a team player. Oh, and it frees up space in their warehouses for shiny new German and French artillery, funded by the 199 million euro sale proceeds. Everyone walks away happy, except the Russian artillerymen who now have to guess where those shells are landing from. Once the M110A2s arrive, expect them to appear in Ukrainian social media feeds, probably covered in mud, parked in a forest, and with "For Mariupol" painted on the side in Cyrillic. They'll likely be used for long-range counter-battery fire, the deadly chess game of hunting other artillery. They won't be fast, they won't be subtle, but they will be terrifying. And when they start firing those cluster rounds, entire Russian staging areas will evaporate in a few seconds. That's the kind of pressure Ukraine needs to keep the front from freezing, figuratively and literally. The M110A2s might be from another era, but it's exactly what this era of war demands: firepower and volume and reliability. And for once, the Russians are going to see what it feels like to feel the pressure of massive artillery rounds on their X. That's it for today, friends. Thanks for watching. Subscribing is the best way to support human creators and fight back against the AI garbage flooding your favorite platforms. Besides, AI doesn't have a mortgage to pay. I do. And, as always, glory to Ukraine. Glory to the heroes. Crimea is Ukraine.